And the machete bit is for vegetation up here, and so it tends to be in places where trees grow, which tend to be wet places, whereas the scythe has only one purpose. I mean, the machete is very versatile. You can slice oranges with it, you can run through a wasp with it, etc. Whereas it's very difficult to do that with a scythe. Scythe has only one purpose, and that is to cut vegetation at ground level, which of course you can do, and a lot of people do with machetes. If you go to Africa, you'll see them mow lawns with machetes, but Europeans don't like bending down, so they invented the scythe, and its only purpose is to cut at ground level without bending down like that. They tried to introduce the scythe to Africa and it just didn't work. What's the point? Anyway, within the scythe world, there's a fault line which runs down through the North Sea and the English Channel, and on one side of it you've got the Anglo-American blade, like that, which I'll pass around, and on the other side, let's find one that isn't bitterly sharp. Oh, here's another, pass that around as well in that direction. That's another one. That's a crown blade and that's a paper blade. They're both English blades, different styles of English blade. But there's one thing you'll notice about them. Whereas here you've got an Austrian blade, but the continental blade. Where did we start this side here? And you'll probably notice the main difference between the two is that the continental one is much lighter. It's 60% lighter. Well, when I wait, no, well, I'll give that a bit. It's lighter because of the way it's manufactured. These blades are entirely stamped, and then there's a riveted back to them. There's no forging involved at all. These ones are forged a bit. But both the English blades are made in quite large-scale factories, and the major process is grinding. Each one has had about 20 to 25 minutes grinding on a great big water-powered grinding wheel. And the professionals who made them were not known as scythe smiths, they were known as scythe grinders. With the continental blades, there's very little grinding at all. Any grinding they do is cosmetic or else to do with the sharpening process. The entire thing is forged by hand. I mean, not like that they were originally, but I mean there's a tilt hammer going like that, and the guys are going with the hot molten metal. Because it's hand forged, it means that they can get, you'll see that this has a curve in that direction, and a curve in that direction, and a curve in that direction. So it's curved in all three directions. It's plagioclastic is the technical term. And because of that, it's under tension, and that means that it can be much lighter in relation to its strength than the Anglo-American blades. The Anglo-American blades get their strength from sheer mass, i.e. weight. And a lot of people, wonder why there is this difference between the English and the Austrian blades. One theory is that the weight of the English blades, it gives it momentum for passing through tougher English grasses. And there's some truth in that, I think, because even within the continental blades, the ones you find from Belgium or Germany and Northern Europe, Western Northern Europe, tend to be heavier blades than the ones you find in Turkey or Iran or Iraq. But at the same time, it's also to do with very much linked to the social and political differences between Britain and the continent. you know, Britain by the 19th century was industrialising. The small village factories were being put out of business. Everything was made. You know, by the middle of the 19th century, most of them were made in Sheffield by a firm called Tyzac. Tyzac eventually ended up with a complete monopoly. It bought out Isaac Nash, the last independent one. Isaac Nash had bought out Fussell's and so on. And then in 1987, Tyzac stopped making them all together. And that was, after that, they're dead, they're dinosaur. They're not made anymore. Well, actually, I'll tell a lie. They are made. Somebody ordered 1,000 of them from Schreckenfuchs, the factory in Austria. So they're now made in Austria with the steel that they use for this, which is the wrong steel for making those, and that you can buy them in Mole Valley. But they ordered 1,000 about 7 years ago, and I don't think they've sold all of them yet. So the main difference is the weight of the blade, or the most obvious difference, and the fact that the blade weighs less means that the snath weighs less as well. Oh, sorry, I was explaining the reason for this. I mean, the other reason for it is that the lots of small farms over in Austria, and the scythe was used by individuals, by nearly everybody. Every small farm would have, small holding would have had a scythe or two. Men used them, women would use them quite a lot for mowing every day for the dairy, for example. By the end of the 19th century in Britain, scything was a professional activity, mostly done by gangs. Certainly any harvesting was done by gangs of Irishmen who came over, really fit, knew what they were doing, done 5 years apprenticeship as a scythesman. They were professionals. They could wield, you know, a 3 kilo scythe, and most other people couldn't. And that's why the scything died out in Britain, was because it had become a sort of clique belonging to a few professionals, whereas on the continent the scythe held the same sort of place in the tool shed as the spade and the fork and the trowel and all the other things that most people have in their tool shed. Everybody's got them in their tool sheds. Quite a lot of people got scythes in their tool sheds, and they're ancient ones that have been hanging up there in cobwebs and dust for the last 35 years, and possibly taken down once or twice. Somebody's had a bash with them, not know how to use them, not know how to sharpen them, dug them into the ground, bent them, and then stuck them back up again. I see them, about one of those every week. Right, so we better get on with things. The other difference, snaths. The snath is, there we have a snath, thank you very much. That's a snath. It's called a snath, comes from the word sned. Some of you may know what a snedding axe is. You're cutting off a bit of, a small bit of wood off a tree that's fallen or something. It's a bit of wood about that size. It comes from German, schneiden. It's called a snath because originally you wouldn't have bought one from your snath dealer. You'd just go out in the hedgerow, you know, and look for something. Oh, I'm off to look for a sned, and you come back with something like that. I think this accounts for the difference between the two. Do we have the other? We haven't got a. I'm looking for the Scandinavian snath, but I don't know what. Huh? Straight one, yeah. 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 Anybody got one?
Yes, it's the breakfast.
Okay. Yeah, there are two kinds of snath in the world, but the fault line doesn't go down the North Sea and the English Channel like the blades. It kind of goes pretty much where the Iron Curtain goes, though the Scandinavian countries tend to be the other side of the Iron Curtain. This is an Eastern European snath, and you hold it like this and you mow it like that. Well, he'll show you how to mow it. There's two people here who mow with these, though. The motion's like that with your hand up there. So it's very easy to make. Straight bit of wood with a little bit of handle on there. That one, please. Okay, all right. we will do health and safety too. But it's not my job. I know who's on the health and safety. Remember that. This is the a typical old English snath, and it's wiggly, and you mow like this, right? So the difference is Scandinavian style is like that, Western style is like that, and we teach the Western style because that's what most people in the West do. But the other mode of mowing is perfectly acceptable. My own view is that the two snath systems evolved because if you went into if you lived in Russia or Scandinavia or at least large parts of Eastern Europe, went to the woods to get a sned, you go into a coniferous wood and come out with something like that. Whereas if you went into a wood in England and came out with a bit of wood, you more likely come out with a wiggly bit of deciduous wood like that. But that's pure supposition. Anyway, the main challenge with getting a snath to fit your body, like your false teeth do, is to bring this hand up to here. You don't have this problem with this one because the mowing style is designed for, it fits perfectly a sloping stick. But this one, with this mowing style, you've got somehow to bring, while the shaft is sloping, you've got to bring the right hand up to more or less the same height as the left hand. There are two ways of doing that. One is to bring it up in an S bend so it comes up steeply at first and levels out, which is what this one does. And the other is to stick a spur on a crank on the hand grip and bring it up to its height. And this is a Swiss snath that we sell, and it's a bit of both. It's got a very slight curve, as much as the manufacturer thinks they can get away with because it's not steam bent like that one is. It's sawn and then it's got a crank here, and that crank brings it up to a point. This is set slightly low for me, but it's a point where the right hand is more or less the same height as the left hand. I'm doing a nice, easy, symmetrical movement. That, I think, is all I have to say, and somebody else is going to take over from me and do the
The setup.
setup. Who's doing the setup? Ah, Martin. Let me introduce Martin.